Outlaw Sports is brought to you by Molson Canadian, made from Canada, and Rocky Mountain Barbecue, Alberta barbecue cuisine at its best.
Ian Busby of the Calgary Sun joins us, and today we're going to take leftovers from the Montreal game and put them into perspective as they head into a big home-and-home series over Labor Day with the Edmonton Eskimos. First of all, Henry Burris becomes 8 on the overall leader list as far as yards go. He's thrown over 400 against Montreal. It's nice to see him come up with a big game against Montreal. I think he gets a little fired up when these two teams meet.
Well, absolutely. It's one of those measuring stick type games for them. We were going in and we're saying, well, Henry needs 412 yards to pass the 40,000 yard mark. Well, he can do that. Montreal, maybe not. He easily wiped that clean and goes over 40,000 yards. To put that in perspective, he's starting to get in territory of Doug Flutie.
Absolutely.
He's going to get close to those numbers pretty quickly, and that's going to be an interesting comparison when that happens. But he had a really solid game. I thought just in the second half he was picking it up a bit more, but it was interesting to hear Coach John Hufnagel say that in the first half, Henry played really well, really bailed his team out. His offensive line wasn't as good in the first half as it should have been. They picked it up in the second half, but he sort of bailed them out, and his receivers did a good job of making some big plays in the first half too. They had 8 passes of more than 20 yards, or longer than 20 yards, I should say. When that happens, you're an explosive offense. You can get the job done.
After what John Hufnagel was able to do with that offensive line last year, I was not going to doubt this team, but I have to doubt that offensive line right now. To me, there's some guys that are great, but overall, I don't think it's a solid enough unit, and I think Henry has to scramble for his life too much.
Right, and I think the problems there are the tackle positions right now. They're going with a left tackle that is very raw, first year in professional football in Tony Washington. They knew he was going to be a project. They just have to wait a little longer to get him up to speed. What we're going to see after Labor Day is, I think, Edwin Harrison come back and play right tackle instead of Stanley Bryant. It's been an ongoing issue all year. They had Bryant in and out, and then when Washington played a game there, then they moved Gerald Cadigan over for a game, and now those two guys are working at right tackle, but they're just not getting it enough out of that position. The inside guys, I think, are going to be fine. Zumpus is obviously the anchor there,
Sure.
and Middleton and O'Neill are serviceable players. When they start getting the tackle proficiency that they've been known to have, I think it's going to be fine. Edwin Harrison
be next year, though.
It could be, because that's the thing, is it takes a long time for certain imports to get used to the Canadian Football League, especially the tackle when you got a defensive end who's got that yard of edge and has much more of a better route to the quarterback in the American game. It's a little bit different.
And the penalties they're taking.
Man, yeah, that's not good. And Washington was a big example. He had 2 procedures and a hands to the face. Now, he's such a big guy that his hands to the face are at about normal person's waist. So it's tough to blame him on that one. But
overall, the team's penalties. I mean, they're
absolutely
they're the league leaders.
Yeah, and that's not very typical of this group under Hufnagel. He usually cracks down pretty hard on that, and I think it's one of those things that they've escaped the consequences of some of those penalties in the first 8 games. It's not gonna be that easy to escape them down the stretch.
I want to talk about a couple of guys, Jabari Arthur and Johnny Forzani, especially Johnny Forzani in the game that he had. I know earlier in the year there was some frustration on the offense. Some of the players just felt Johnny was missing too many assignments, too many key blocks. And there's so many people. I mean, they gave the kid the name Day Pass. Last year he caught 3 passes. He's finally coming into his own. I'm glad to see, because the last thing I want is someone to make it on name alone.
Right.
So finally coming up, and the 2 touchdowns that he got, especially the second one, because he made the great catch. They called it back on a penalty, and then they go back to him, and he gets a little excited. I thought the penalty that he got called was kind of an innocent play.
It was.
Yeah, I thought that was crap.
That's just exuberance, right? He got up so amazed that he has the ball in his hand. He's in the end zone for the big touchdown, and just throws it away, and he hits the player and doesn't really see him there.
Yeah.
I can't blame him for that one. It was amazing, that game, because he lost a friend to a tragic accident that week. Really wasn't sure how he was going to focus, and came out and had the game of his career. I think if his name was something else, if it was Johnny Smith, and it wasn't Johnny Forzani, I think people would give him a lot more of a break up until this point, because obviously he's got the talent, he's got the skills, and he hasn't even played 30 football games yet.
Yeah.
Not professional games, 30 football games. That's how he started 3 years ago as a route runner for the Stamps. When they just needed somebody to come out and get punished by Brandon Browner and Dwight Anderson. and he took those lumps and he went to practice every day and tried to get better, and he's still doing that. And with Arthur and Forzani and Anthony Parker coming up in the next couple of years, this will be the new Canadian Air Force. You can mark
absolutely,
my words.
and that's great to see. You know, and I'm sure Huffnagel, with his connection to the Forzani family, him and his dad are really close, and of course he's a business partner with John. You know, I would imagine he'd be a little tough on Forzani too, because the last thing I think Huff would want to have is someone saying, "Oh yeah, I just gave him a day pass."
Yeah, and the thing is, Huffnagel is Johnny Forzani's godfather.
Yeah.
So when you think about it, he very much wants him to behave and act in a professional manner, and he's always been hard on Johnny Forzani. Now, they used a third-round pick in the supplemental draft a couple years ago to get him. Think about it now. You could probably trade Johnny Forzani and get a first-round pick for him. So it was a great move at the time, when a lot of people thought, wow, of course he's going to the Stampeders. You know, of course they're going to pick him, because he was already a Calgary guy who spent a couple years in their practices. So it was a good move on their part to get him, and they put the work into him, and now it's starting to pay off.
Well, I understand Mike Levenseller, who is at the University of Washington where he played, is a little choked that he went back to the Stamps, because Levenseller and Tom were very good friends.
Right.
And he got him down there and wanted him to develop. And I still think he would have developed further had he stayed down there.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I really wasn't sure about bringing him back too soon.
Well, and I think it's just more the academic part than anything else.
Sure.
And I think Johnny just wanted to be a football player, and academics was a little bit secondary, right? When the family is very much financially set, they don't have to worry about the money part of it, so he doesn't have to worry about backing up his education. I don't want to put words in Johnny's mouth, but I mean, I think he just wanted to try and become a professional football player as quickly as possible, and it's starting to come true. He'd be in his senior season right now of
Would he, or one more?
Even one more? He'd be
Yeah.
in his junior season?
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing to think of, that he's actually here instead of playing college when he was starting to light it up at the end of that season in Washington State.
How old is he? 23?
22. I know. Think about it. He's young enough to be your son.
Well, I got a son older than that. At least I think. Are we going to do some more blood work just to make sure? He's running the camera.
Oh.
Great thing, though, the family, the tradition. I love that Forzani tradition. And Johnny, you've got 2 touchdowns now. You're 60 away from Dad.
That's not many, right? Think about that. Hey, it took 2 years to get 2, so.
In fact, I remember a headline.
He's got the talent to get there, I think.
Yeah. I laughed, because Mike Levenseller is still one of my favorite guys that ever played in the CFL. Fun guy, and some of the best hands. Well, you back up Brian Kelly and all those guys up in Edmonton, you can't crack that lineup. When you do get in, they had to trade him because he was too good not to play.
Yeah.
And of course, they come back here in one of the worst trades of all time. They finally get him, but they lost a great linebacker going up to Edmonton. But Levenseller and Forzani, great possession receivers, no speed. And I remember reading in the Sun just criticizing these guys with lead feet. But they were great possession receivers, holy smokes.
And Johnny got all the speed in the family, apparently. So.
And his mom's looks. Thank heavens for that. He got his dad's abilities and his mom's looks.
Go tell Tom that, actually.
He's used to me by now, I think.
Tired of going to redneck barbecues? Well, you better call Rocky Mountain Barbecue. Alberta barbecue cuisine at its best. Great tasting food, clean and efficient service. Check us out online or call Rocky Mountain Barbecue.